Analysts assumed he had hit a wall. Critics claimed his ideas had reached their limit. And the industry? They quietly moved on, believing the next technological revolution would come from Silicon Valley or maybe Shenzhen. But they were wrong. Because today, without warning, Maxwell stepped onto a dimly lit stage in a private auditorium in Johannesburg, placed a small metallic object on the table, and said words that instantly froze every scientist in the room. This will make energy generation obsolete. At first, no one understood what he meant. The device in front of him was barely the size of a lunchbox. No wires, no coils, no visible power source. Just a sleek composite shell, faintly pulsing with a controlled blue glow, as if it were alive. Cameras were forbidden, but a leaked audio recording captured the sharp intake of breath as Maxwell lifted the device with a single hand and placed it at the center of a circular platform. The room dimmed automatically. A low, harmonic vibration filled the air. And then, the impossible happened. The platform, the air around it, even the objects on the table began to gently distort, like reality itself was bending. A pen rolled not downward, but sideways, pulled by a force that hadn't existed moments before. The edge of Maxwell's jacket fluttered against an invisible pressure. He calmly explained, "The field you're observing isn't magnetic. It's not electrical. It's not gravitational." A pause. "You're looking at engineered space." Those in attendance struggled to process what they were seeing. Engineers whispered urgently. Physicists stared wide-eyed at the distortions. A few simply stood frozen. Maxwell placed his hand over the device, without touching it, and the glow intensified. The distortion field expanded in a smooth, spherical pulse. Nothing malfunctioned. Nothing overheated. No external power source was used. And that's when he said the line now circulating across underground tech forums. "From this moment onward, the concept of energy consumption as you know it is over." Silence filled the auditorium. This wasn't just another self-powered engine, not another RF transceiver, not another electromagnetic loop. This was something categorically different, something bordering on science fiction. A controlled manipulation of space itself. A field that could create motion, power systems, stabilize structures, even reduce weight. Which is why a representative from a major U.S. aerospace firm, invited quietly and privately, leaned forward and whispered, "Is this a precursor to propulsion?" Maxwell didn't answer. He didn't need to. Because on the platform next to the device sat a sealed carbon fiber block weighing 62 kilograms. Everyone in the room had already seen it on the stage earlier. It required 2 people to lift it. Now, as Maxwell looked toward it, the block trembled, shifted, and then, slowly, gracefully, rose several centimeters into the air. No sound, no thrusters, no heat, just a silent defiance of shouting, shock. Some demanded blueprints. Others begged for a second demonstration. A few walked out in stunned silence, whispering that the world had just changed, and no one was ready. Maxwell, meanwhile, gave only one final clue before exiting the stage. "What you saw today is just the beginning. The real breakthrough is what this device becomes when scaled." He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. Because suddenly, the implications were terrifyingly clear. A car that never needs fuel. A drone that never needs lift. A generator that doesn't consume energy. An aircraft that isn't restrained by wings, rotors, or rockets. A power grid that doesn't require wires, stations, or sunlight. And something more. Something even governments fear to imagine. A propulsion system not bound by Earth at all. As reporters scrambled to make sense of the demonstration, a single confidential memo leaked within hours. If real, this is the most disruptive technology ever created. And yet what the world saw today was only the prototype, only the seed, only a fraction of what this technology could become. Which is why, according to insiders, multiple global powers are already preparing high-level meetings, quiet, urgent, classified. They know what this invention means. They know the balance of power is shifting. And they know that if Maxwell releases the next phase. The world was still trying to understand what Maxwell had just shown. But behind the scenes, the real storm had already begun. While news outlets scrambled to piece together fragments, a private intelligence report circulated among a handful of world leaders. It detailed everything they feared. Maxwell's device wasn't just a scientific anomaly. It was a geopolitical earthquake. The memo described 3 words repeated during a closed-door government briefing: nonlinear propulsion potential. That phrase alone sent shockwaves through military analysts. It meant the device could theoretically move an object, not by pushing it, not by burning fuel, not by creating thrust, but by displacing space around it. A vehicle using this technology wouldn't fly. It wouldn't hover. It would move through reality, like a blade through water. Instant acceleration. Zero turbulence. No detectable heat signature. And, best of all, no energy consumption. Exactly the kind of technology every superpower has been hunting for decades. Within hours, agencies across the globe activated silent protocols. Communication lines lit up. Old alliances were suddenly fragile. And covert teams were given one order: find out what Maxwell is building next. Because no one believed the prototype was the end. Everyone sensed there was something bigger, something far more dangerous, behind the curtain. And they were right. A whistleblower stepped forward less than 48 hours after the demonstration. A former engineer who once worked with Chikumbutso. He spoke anonymously, voice distorted, silhouette hidden. And he said something that broke the story open. What you saw on stage wasn't the real invention. That box was only the stabilizer. Maxwell built something else, something that needs the stabilizer to operate. The interviewer asked him to clarify, but the whistleblower hesitated. Then he dropped the line that froze the entire internet. He's building a vehicle, but not for Earth. Silence. He continued, voice trembling slightly. He calls it the transition craft. Design sketches looked impossible: no engines, no rotors, no thrusters. Just smooth contours, layered composite shells, and a central chamber for spatial field generation. And that's when the interviewer asked the most important question. What is it meant to do? The whistleblower didn't pause this time. It's not meant to fly, he said. It's meant to leave. With those words, rumors exploded across underground forums. Was Maxwell building the world's first space displacement craft? A ship that didn't require rockets? A vessel that could simply step out of Earth's gravity? Theories multiplied, some wild, some disturbingly logical. Meanwhile, satellite imagery leaked showing a remote compound in Zimbabwe suddenly expanding. New structures, unknown machinery, unusual power signatures, though far lower than expected for a massive project. One analyst described it perfectly. It's as if something big is being built, but it's not consuming any power. And that only made one explanation more likely. Maxwell was running the prototype at scale. Inside government circles, panic quietly turned into something worse: urgency. If Maxwell completed this craft first, the first country to partner with him could dominate global aerospace for the next century. If he refused to partner with anyone, unexpected happened. A series of silent alerts triggered inside the global aerospace network, systems designed to detect missile launches, orbital activity, and unidentified propulsion events. But this time, the alerts didn't match anything in the databases. No heat plume, no rocket ignition, no chemical exhaust. Just a sudden, perfectly clean energy spike, so subtle it was almost impossible to detect, yet so precise it couldn't be natural. The spike came from a remote region of Zimbabwe, the exact region where Maxwell's compound was located. Immediately, military analysts from multiple countries locked onto the anomaly. High-resolution satellites pivoted. Infrared sensors scanned. Electromagnetic arrays adjusted. They were all expecting some kind of aircraft, or maybe a large test vehicle. But what they detected instead was a void. A circular space, nearly 12 meters in diameter, where normal environmental signatures simply disappeared. No heat. No wind distortion. No electronic noise. Just absence. One analyst described it as, like something was there, but reality wasn't allowed to touch it. And then, the void moved. Not like a drone. Not like a jet. Not like any known vehicle. It shifted upward, smoothly and silently, rising in a perfectly straight line as if gravity had no influence at all. Global monitoring centers went into controlled panic. What is propelling it? Is it cloaked? Why can't we detect surface reflection? What is absorbing the light? Why is the surrounding air not displaced? One expert finally whispered what everyone was thinking but too afraid to say. This is a spatial displacement field. It's real. For the first time in recorded history, the impossible wasn't a theory. It wasn't a rumor. It wasn't a leaked blueprint. It was moving and climbing. More sensors locked on. More satellites recalibrated. More governments scrambled to figure out the nature of the object. Some thought it was extraterrestrial. Some thought it was a black project leaked from a rival nation. And a few, the quiet few who had been following Maxwell's work for years, already knew the truth. Meanwhile, back on the ground, inside the hidden facility, Maxwell's small team watched the ascent from a reinforced viewing chamber. No applause. No cheering. Just focused, almost reverent silence. Because they weren't testing a drone. They weren't testing a prototype aircraft. They were testing the transition craft, the first human-made object designed to slip through the fabric of space without fuel, thrust, or propulsion. A machine powered entirely by the stabilizer box the world had dismissed as a curiosity just days earlier. At precisely 4:17 a.m. local time, the craft stopped its ascent at a predetermined altitude, 92 kilometers, the edge of space. But it wasn't done. It held position, perfectly motionless in near-vacuum conditions, without thrusters, without power draw, without any visible mechanisms. Then every global radar system lost it.
Not jammed.
Not cloaked. Not hidden. It simply wasn't there anymore. Data analysts stared at their screens, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Nothing had vanished from Earth's detection systems in this way since the dawn of modern aerospace. Minutes passed. Then 10. Then 20. Finally, a small encrypted message appeared on Maxwell's private channel. 8 words. Phase 1 complete. Transition field successfully mapped. The world didn't understand it. But every agency knew. Maxwell had just done something no nation, no corporation, and no government had ever achieved. He had left the grid.
Completely.
And whatever he was about to do next, the world had no way of stopping it. For 27 minutes, the world's most advanced detection systems remained blind. Then it happened. A blip. Small, faint, unstable, but unmistakable. At first, analysts thought it was a sensor error. A glitch. Static. Anything but real. Because the blip didn't appear in orbit. It didn't appear in the sky. It didn't appear over Zimbabwe. It appeared 80 kilometers off the coast of California. Inside a U.S. Naval Intelligence Center, alarms erupted instantly. Officers rushed to their stations. Infrared arrays recalibrated. Coastal radars went into maximum sensitivity. What is that signature? Is it a drone? No heat signature, none. It looks like a displacement bubble? That's impossible. It wasn't there a second ago. Then the blip stabilized. A perfect circle, 12 meters wide. Just like before. Exactly the size of Maxwell's craft. The center director stared at the screen, pale. Contact the Pentagon.
Now.
But before anyone could react, the object flickered. Once, twice. As if phasing in and out of alignment with space itself. Then,
it moved.
Not across the sky. Not over the ocean. But through the environment, without disturbing air, water, or heat signatures. It was like watching a ghost glide over reality. More systems locked onto it. More analysts tried to track it. But no matter how many sensors focused on it, the object behaved as if physical laws had been rewritten around it. Then a second shock hit. A live camera on a naval research buoy caught it. Not a blur. Not a distortion. A shape.
Smooth. Silent.
Reflecting nothing. Absorbing everything. Almost like a vessel wrapped in a horizon-bending field that bent light around its skin. And then, The craft stopped. Not gradually. Not slowing. Just stopped. From 900 kilometers per hour to zero in less than a millisecond, with no inertia, no shockwave, no turbulence. A feat no human-made aircraft in history could even dream of. And inside his hidden Zimbabwe facility, Maxwell watched the footage in real time before the public ever saw it. His assistant approached carefully. Almost ordinary-looking box that had ignited the global race. "The craft is not the end," he said quietly. "It's the test. The real invention is what it brought back." His assistant froze. Brought back from where? Maxwell smiled faintly. Not where. A pause. When? Before the assistant could respond, the craft above the Pacific emitted a silent pulse. A clean, harmonic ripple that traveled across sensors worldwide. Every radar screen froze. Every satellite glitched. Every frequency flatlined for exactly 1.4 seconds. When systems came back online, the craft was gone. But something new was in its place. Floating gently above the water was an object no one could identify. Metallic. Geometric. And unlike anything from Earth. A piece of something. Something the world wasn't meant to see. And Maxwell's quiet voice echoed in the lab. The metallic object hovered above the Pacific as if gravity had forgotten it existed. Every nation that detected it was scrambling for answers, but no one could identify the material, the shape, or even the physics behind how it stayed suspended without propulsion. In Maxwell's underground facility, the room lights dimmed automatically as the stabilizer core pulsed with a soft blue glow, responding to the object thousands of miles away. His assistant stepped back, nervous. "Sir, what exactly did the craft bring back?" Maxwell approached the stabilizer panel and placed his hand on the casing. The screen lit up with patterns, sequences of symbols, coordinates, timestamps, and vibrations. "Not an object," he said quietly. "A message." The assistant frowned. "A message from the future?" Maxwell didn't look away from the panel. "Not the future we're headed toward. The future we avoid." The assistant blinked, speechless. Maxwell gestured at the symbols. "These are not instructions. They're warnings." The craft didn't just phase through time. It skimmed the boundary where timelines collapse into each other. The assistant swallowed. "And this thing floating over the ocean? It's a fragment from that boundary. A temporal shard." As he said it, the stabilizer unit reacted again, this time showing an image. Not a video. More like a projection of a world that looked familiar, yet ruined. Skylines in flames. Oceans pulled back unnaturally. Cities warped like melted glass. And above it all, a sky split by cracks of blinding white light. The assistant stared in horror. What happened to that world?" Maxwell answered calmly. "Unlimited energy. Unlimited computing. Unlimited autonomy. But without responsibility." He tapped the projection. That timeline unlocked self-powered technology without understanding its consequences. They pushed the boundaries, then crossed them. Energy eventually collapsed into a runaway feedback loop. Their stabilizers became unstable. Their sky fractured. The assistant's voice shook. "And the shard? Why would it appear here?"
Now.
Maxwell finally turned to him. "Because our timeline is repeating their steps. Faster than they did." The assistant covered his mouth. "So they're trying to warn us?" Maxwell nodded. "Or to stop us." The room suddenly shook. Not violently, more like a deep vibration rippling through the foundation. The stabilizer core brightened, emitting a harmonic tone. The assistant panicked. "Sir, the object over the Pacific. It's changing frequency." Maxwell walked to the console as new data appeared. The shard wasn't just hovering. It was recording something. No, not recording.
Scanning.
And the pattern it was scanning matched the energy profile of Maxwell's stabilizer. The assistant stared. "It's looking for this lab." Maxwell's eyes narrowed. "No, it already found it. Now it's deciding whether our timeline is salvageable." A second vibration shook the room, stronger this time. Monitors flickered. A distant alarm echoed through the facility. The assistant's voice trembled. Sir, what do we do? Maxwell took a slow breath. We finish the activation sequence. The assistant froze. But the shard. If we stop now, Maxwell said firmly, the world falls into the same collapse as the timeline that sent the warning. Another pulse hit the lab. The shard above the Pacific glowed brighter, illuminating the ocean like a second sun. The assistant backed away. What happens if you activate the stabilizer before the shard completes its scan? Maxwell looked at him with unwavering determination. Then we don't just change the future. He placed his hand over the final biometric key. We rewrite it. And as his hand descended, the entire facility erupted in blinding light. The blinding light swallowed the entire underground facility as the stabilizer roared to life. The assistant shielded his face, feeling the air ripple like liquid around him. For a split second, there was no sound, no movement, just pure, suspended white. Then everything snapped back. The light collapsed inward, condensing into a single, pulsing orb inside the stabilizer chamber. The shard over the Pacific reacted instantly, flashing a burst of energy that shot across the sky like a lightning strike stretching across continents. The assistant stumbled forward weakly. Sir, did it work? Maxwell stood at the console, steady, calm, watching the orb settle into a rhythmic pulse. Yes, he said softly. The stabilizer is online. The room systems powered back up one by one. Screens flickered with new readings, some familiar, some never seen before. Outside, sensors reported the shard's frequency dropping, its glow dimming as the enormous shape slowly descended toward the ocean. The assistant exhaled in disbelief. It's shutting down. It's no longer scanning us. Maxwell nodded. Because it found what it needed. What was that? The assistant asked. Proof, Maxwell replied. That we chose differently. The orb pulsed again, gently this time, almost like breathing. Maxwell approached it, lowering his voice. This stabilizer doesn't just generate power. It balances the energy of our entire timeline. Every misuse, every overload, every experiment that could collapse reality, this device will keep it in check. The assistant looked at him, awestruck. So, we're safe. For now, Maxwell said. But every breakthrough comes with responsibility. We're being watched by timelines that didn't survive their own brilliance. Outside, satellites tracked the shard sinking silently into the sea, dissolving into particles of violet light before it ever touched the water. Maxwell shut down the console, the hum of the stabilizer continuing in the background like a heartbeat. This was their warning, he said. But now it's our chance. The assistant hesitated. Chance to do what? Maxwell turned toward him, eyes calm, determined. To build the future they never could. The camera fades out as the stabilizer core glows brighter, illuminating the room with a steady, hopeful light, signaling not the end of the story but the beginning of a new era.